Welcome to Qlick Podcast. It's Josh Kindred, your host. I'm here today with Carinda Gosling. We're talking about people, property, places. Welcome, Carinda.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it.
This is such an exciting time.
It is, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this.
Now, Carinda, we're going to take you outside your comfort zone today. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about you or whatever you want to talk about.
All right, deal.
Do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, look, I think there's a lot going on at the moment, so I'm happy to see wherever you want to take it and what we can kind of share with the listeners.
Cool. What do you do?
I am the Communications and PR Director for Kindred Group, and I dabble in some brand strategy outside this as well. Love a lot of industries.
What do you do?
Communications and public relations.
What is that?
Words. A lot of words. So I guess there's a lot of levels to it. So external communications with the people that we, love and cherish as our customers, and then internal communications, with our staff members here at Kindred. We do have quite a big family. And then also looking at ways that we can interact with the people who are already part of Kindred as well, so our stakeholders.
Cool. What are your measures of success internally for the way that people communicate? You talk about that internal communication. I think it's something that all businesses and anybody that's part of a company, they strive for that internal culture.
Yeah.
And certainly I imagine communication is a big part of that. What's a way that is a measure of success for that?
Well, I think so often it's easy to focus on the external communications. There's a lot of noise around social media and, Snapchat and Instagram and all the rest of it. But it's so important to look internally in our businesses and see how we can communicate. And the reason for that being, or the measure as you called it, would be definitely your staff culture and your staff engagement. So really making sure that staff are on track with your business strategy, that they know where you're going, what's been happening. You'd be surprised at what staff don't know and how much they'll often find out because you've put it on social media or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Definitely engagement would be the biggest measure.
That sounds exciting and such a valuable component for a business, probably something that's overlooked more often than not. Carinda, they call you Carinda from Babinda. Is that just because your name's Carinda, or are you from Babinda?
Look, I've heard one person ever call me that, and I'm sitting across from that person today. However, no, I'm not from Babinda.
Where are you from?
So I'm from Cairns originally, which is quite close to Babinda.
Right.
So yeah, lovely sunny North Queensland.
Okay, and what brought you to Southeast Queensland, other than words?
Work. With a K, yeah. So
right.
I had an opportunity in
I
front
see
of
what
me
you did there.
Yeah, thank you.
Clever, quick.
Thank you. So I had an opportunity to come down and transfer in the business I was in to come and work in Southeast Queensland, and absolutely jumped at the opportunity. There's so much going on down here.
Carinda, you're quite young and aspirational, but when you were in high school, did you dream of words for work?
Oh, no, I didn't. I actually dreamt of being a lawyer, which I guess is a lot about persuasion and influence and communication and analytics, and that stuff all makes up my role as a communication, expert now, or a communication director. They're all critical parts. So I guess it was a little bit of a deviation from the plan, but certainly enjoy where I am today.
Did you go to university and start law, or
I did not. So rather than doing law, I thought, I'd be a teacher.
Okay.
Not really sure. So I studied history and political science as part of my Bachelor of Secondary Education, and thought that being a lawyer just looked really hard, and teachers got a lot of holidays. So kind of studied what I want in a different platform, and then ended up leaving that after my second prac when I realised I didn't actually love kids that much. Truth be told, it was quite a hard thing to do when you actually didn't enjoy that interaction.
We'll get on to kids a little bit later, Carinda. We can't wait to know about what's in store for your future. But and so did you with university? You finished history,
political science, socioeconomics. Yeah.
What is that? What's a university degree in that like?
So it was actually my majors as part of my Bachelor of Secondary
I'm thinking
Education.
Are you doing World War One, World War
spot
Two?
On. Yeah, World Wars, but not just the events. So trying to analyse it and understand how history shapes our future, how it shaped our present day, and then what might reverberate from that into the years to come. And then I guess some people, it used to be called SOS, Studies of Society and Environment. So a little bit of that as well. So learning a lot about, demographics, sociographics, things like that. So yeah, lots of stuff in there.
That's fun.
It was fun, actually. That was the part that I
Do
enjoyed
you use
the
it
most.
today?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the skills from that were transferable. So whilst I might not, talk too much about the Treaty of Versailles or, the reign of Hitler whilst in the workplace,
Right.
certainly being able to analyse those events and how, a community can be swayed by propaganda and things like that certainly helps in the field that I'm in now.
Yeah, cool. I can't say that I use a lot of my university time to good use in the workplace. But certainly it sounds like you've been able to do that really well. Carinda, tell us, what's the next few years look like for you in communications? Is it more and more important in today's marketplace and I suppose business landscape for people to have this communications type director?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that communications is such an integral part of everything we do, and we do it each day, every day without realising. However, there's so much science and consumer behaviour and analytics that are available to us to make sure we're doing it the best way possible. And a lot of businesses aren't necessarily harnessing that, and they're using, methods that might have been relevant 15, 20 years ago that they might have learnt in that Cert 3 or Cert 2 in business or in high school or in their first job that just aren't working anymore. One of the biggest shifts that we see that I can probably share here is the belief-driven brand and how communicating belief and values through our brand messages is having a massive, massive impact throughout society. And there's been some big reporting done into this, and there was an Edelman report.
What do you mean by belief-driven brand?
So I guess it's a bit of a spectrum. So a belief-driven brand is one where we communicate to our audience what we as a brand believe in. So that could be our purpose, so what we're here to do. So at Kindred, we're here to make a real difference to our community. It then could be alignment with a social issue. So one of the ways that I always put this in perspective is the UN, the United Nations, has kind of 17 goals that they hope to achieve, and the nations in the UN have all agreed to them. So they're things like, reducing poverty, gender equality, housing, medication, things like that, things that are pretty socially acceptable that everybody wants to achieve. And it's about a business aligning with one of those things and publicly advocating for it. So maybe it's to, improve gender equality. So it might be supporting charities, it might be supporting working movements, it might be doing case studies about how that workplace supports gender equality. And then at the other end, there's activism. And that's the one where we kind of get out our picket sign and our marching shoes and we walk around for some of the more controversial issues. And we've seen some people do that lately in the landscape. Nike might be one of them, supporting people who took a knee in some marketing campaigns and things like that. So they're kind of that's the spectrum of belief-driven branding.
Wow. So I understand it, and I think that our listeners will understand it. What makes it important for the business to really align themselves with a belief?
Yeah, so more and more than ever, we're seeing consumers look to brands as people or entities that can change the world. So it's not so good anymore just to say, what you provide as a service, because everybody's providing a service. People want to integrate with a brand and align with a brand that has the same values as them. So that's how consumers have shifted over the years. And so if we're not sharing our beliefs, even if we have them, we might be supporting that charity, and the only, notoriety it gets is when we pull out the receipts for the tax man at the end of the year to do the tax write-off for it. We're all supporting things and we all believe in things, but it's important to wear this on our sleeve and show our consumers what we believe in. That way the consumer can go, hey, you know what? I believe in that too. Maybe I should look a bit more into this person's services because they seem to be the type of person that I want to hang out with.
Yeah, cool. Let's, before we get controversial and hand you over the mic, to go free will on comms wherever you like. Tell me about your property journey. I'm interested in somebody that's come from Cairns, moved to Southeast Queensland, extremely successful. Is property on your radar?
Yeah, look, I've actually had a bit of a property journey throughout my life. So I'm 31 at the moment. So
my goodness,
young but not
children,
so young.
So soon.
I bought my first property when I was, I think, about 24 with an ex-partner. So used the first home buyers grant, bought really, really smart, bought a big block of land in Cairns, about 800 square metres, and then it had a house on it that was good for some renos. So did some renos on that and ended up flipping that property.
Personally?
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Got sort of hands
tiling,
on.
Painting, put a new kitchen in. Just
You're the whole package.
From Masters when that existed, showing my own
Right,
now.
yep.
Yeah. So put all of that in and then flipped that and made a little bit of a profit on that. And then as every 20-something-year-old does, I blew that profit on a trip to the United States. So that was
Tell us
definitely
about that.
probably one of my better moves
No,
in life.
keep telling us about your property journey.
Yeah,
Just
so
joking.
look, I think I made about 15, 20 grand profit off that and just
Sweet.
blew it straight on a trip.
Yep.
So that was a fantastic lesson in life. And then come down to Southeast Queensland, and as you could probably imagine, being in property, there is a little bit of a price difference between houses in Cairns to Brisbane. So it took me a little bit longer than I had hoped to get back into property. So about 5 years later, I've now purchased another property. So it is the only property on my portfolio, if you will.
Yes.
But it's the second property purchase I've made. So it wasn't eligible for first home buyers grant or anything like that. So saved up and bought a what I think is quite a smart, secure purchase moving forward. So bought a villa here in Margate, in the beautiful Moreton Bay region.
I think Margate's the suburb where James Cook first came in. I think it might have even been the first settlement.
I absolutely can't fact check that, so I'm not going to.
Oh, sorry.
agree.
I was just checking your history.
Wouldn't that be Cooktown?
No. Cook went past Cooktown.
Right, okay. Well,
But he did I think he did name it potentially.
we're gonna
It sounds
need to
like
look
he
into
did.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the producers giving us the move along. I think they can edit this out, hopefully. It's
Tell me,
embarrassing for both of us.
With your property journey, can you apply your communication oversight, your communication skills, and give us some commentary on how well does the property industry communicate with the average punter on the street?
Yeah, look, it's hard to, I think I have to take off my Kindred property hat at the moment because, there's a lot of stakeholders involved in a property journey, including solicitors and brokers, plus the real estate agents. So when I say this, I don't just mean Kindred, but there's a lot of improvement to be done, I think, from someone who's been a consumer. And it's about working better with our stakeholders as well, or the complementary services in real estate. So certainly through my property journey, as someone who hadn't bought a property for a number of years, and when I did, it was, with a partner, so I had a second set of brains in there, but bought this property by myself, and busy corporate working in the real estate industry, you would think I would know what was going on. However, it was quite things would sneak up on you. So, settlement dates and, deposits needed and applying for finance and getting building and pest and things like that done. So it seemed quite fragmented, the process. The solicitor would call me for something that I was supposed to spoke to the agent about, and the agent would call me for something they needed to know about my finance, and it was all a bit confusing. So I think that there's certainly
it's funny because this morning when you woke up probably 4:15 and opened Facebook, it probably told you 3 randoms' birthdays.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you wouldn't know that when your finance clause is due.
No, I think there's absolutely so much room where we can communicate better as a collective industry, not just real estate agents, but anyone in the property industry, mortgage broking, solicitors that are doing settlements, to really streamline this for the consumer and make it a heck of a lot better. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Carinda, tell us that you've been to America.
Mm-hmm.
You've spent some time in Cairns and Babinda.
Yes.
Now Margate.
Yes.
The first settlement city of Australia. What's your favourite place?
Oh, look, I actually don't think I have one. And I
Come
know that's
on,
a bit
don't
cliche.
sit on the fence.
No, what do they say? Don't live the same life 75 years, same year 75 times in a row.
Say that again. What do they do?
Don't live the same year 75 times in a row and call it a life. So I think
that.
Don't live the same.
Is that a caption? Do we caption things?
Like a pull quote? Yeah, let's do that, like a soundbite or something.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't want to have a favourite because I actually love moving around, and I have another little move on the cards coming up.
Okay, where are you going?
So I'm actually moving to Katherine in the Northern Territory.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time in my life.
Why are you going to Katherine?
So my partner has been posted there in the Air Force, so absolutely amazing career opportunity. And then for myself, I think as a millennial, I'm really excited about the prospect of exploring this kind of remote work that,
do they do words in
Katherine,
Katherine, or it doesn't matter? You can do words anywhere.
Apparently we're using them anywhere nowadays.
Right.
Who would have thought? So lucky being a communications expert, a lot of my work, is online. I kind of need a laptop and a phone to get it done. So I am lucky enough to be getting to explore remote working. So I think it'll be like bush to boardroom or something like that.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'll be living in the bush part of the time, and then coming back to Brisbane to keep engaged with the lovely Kindred.
If anyone needs a slogan, they could just go straight to you.
Absolutely.
You've thrown like four at us already.
Thank you.
What is that? Is that your creative part of your brain, or is it that you've just seen so many little mixed up slogans that you just a gun at it?
Yeah, look, it might be both. So I read a lot, I absorb a lot, I sponge a lot, and I'm always creating and always writing. So I guess I just live in that part of my brain. If you asked me to do maths on the spot, it'd be absolutely atrociously embarrassing. So let's not do that. But I'm sure people who are accountants or whatever could do that on the spot because they live in that part of their brain.
One of the things that always fascinates me about people like you is your popular culture knowledge, your awareness of current affairs. Certainly, it's something that I aspire to be better at. What's the most controversial thing that's happening in the communication landscape or the branding, the business landscape at the moment? Look, that you see?
Yeah, I don't think there's one controversial issue as such. I do see a little bit at the moment with some of the big players potentially trying to, this could get really controversial actually, trying to stop some of the smaller players opening up. So I know in the open banking that's coming up next year, there's a lot of fintech or financial technology businesses popping up and some of the bigger players. You might need to beep this out, but we've got CBA who have just come out and had a go at one of the little startups. So I think the little startup's worth like $45 million and CBA is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they've sent some propaganda to users of this fintech saying that their passwords and things like that have been corrupted or misused to try and do a little bit of fear tactic to stay away from this fintech. Or that's what's been reported. You never know with the media. But
monopolising the marketplace.
Yeah, so I think it is just about watching this landscape change at the moment as things do become more and more disrupted and some of the big guys kind of, protecting their stake in the landscape.
It's we get communication and content jammed at us all day long. How do you sift through what's real, in that instance where, CBA are sending something out trying to bury another company? How do you sift through what's real and what's not? And what's important as well? Yeah,
it's a really difficult question. I think sources with integrity are probably the most important thing for you to search for in today's landscape when really anyone can report news and to unfortunately quote Trump, but the fake news that is out there. And there actually is so much of it. A lot of the pieces we see online are an opinion piece, and I might eat my words about CBA in a week's time once I do some more research and they've released their statements. But this was more an opinion piece to someone who would watch this happen from inside a fintech company.
Okay.
So credible sources, looking for things that have integrity and that are also potentially neutral. So looking for bias. So what does this person have to, kind of gain from sharing an opinion on this? And if there is a bias, then taking their opinion or their news article with a grain of salt.
Have you seen that show, I think it's The Game Changers?
I haven't, no.
It's sort of like where the world should turn vegan.
Yes, I have heard about this morning, funnily enough.
Watch it, it's cool. That's a recommendation, everyone. It's cool. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'm glad I watched this. And it's interesting because of the way that their opinion, which is backed by medical science, the same as every other opinion that you need, kind of like dentists and so on. But you try to sift through this and it really explains how the meat industry has just, thrown so much marketing propaganda at us that we all felt like we had to eat meat to be healthy.
Absolutely.
And now, when you think about it, there's this opinion piece which has got all this marketing propaganda now throwing us at don't eat meat.
Going the other way.
And go the other way.
Absolutely.
Which then obviously drives a whole nother, I suppose, industry, which is the vegan industry or the plant-based diet industry. And it's just so interesting. I mean, both of them come from giving really good science backgrounds. It's so hard to be able to sift through that.
Absolutely. And I don't think there's an easy answer either to kind of...
Arnold Schwarzenegger is a vegan.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like that's the sort of like extent they go to, that's a branding. That's a way of branding, right?
Yeah.
Like if Arnie does it, cool, I'm on board.
Yeah, well, with muscles like that, here we go.
Yeah. It's trying to sift through that. Is that why
that was another catchprise, by the way?
Sorry, say again. Swollen for summer.
Swole for summer. The kids are using it these days.
They don't use real words, do they?
No, not a lot of the time.
Do we have to hashtag? I have the funniest thing to tell you, Carinda. I'm going to have to try and remember. I wrote it down. It's my daughter. She's only 6. She started singing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. And Hey,
I'm sure
I'll try and
worse has
find
been
it.
said on the
You
program.
tell me something while I look for this. Are you telling me something?
I'm sorry. I was kind of
Sorry, I'm Googling myself. I send myself funny notes all the time.
on Google. So not
No, sorry, I don't know the platforms. Here we go. Mary had a little lamb, chick chick bang, no more lamb, posted on my Instagram, hashtag no more lamb.
Oh my goodness.
This is my 6-year-old. Hey, I'll sing it again
And
for you.
did your 6-year-old
Mary
make
had a little lamb, chick 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 bang, no more lamb, posted on my Instagram, hashtag no more lamb.
Oh my goodness.
This is a grade one-er.
Did she make this up or has this gone through school?
No, well, I'm hoping that she didn't make it up. Otherwise, she might be your next recruit.
My goodness.
But
That's
I
quite
like-
good though.
Yeah.
I might use
Hashtag
that.
no more lamb. She's vegan as well now.
Her and Arnie just hanging
No
out.
more lamb.
It's off summer.
But they use these whole new set of words, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I was at a conference the other day and they had somebody from one of the big communications agencies and it was quite funny because I think I've mentioned I am a millennial, but I was sitting there with people quite my senior and going through some of the acronyms that we use these days, and it was quite entertaining to watch these people that are quite my senior, for a little pop culture reference, boomers, potentially.
Boomers, yep. Baby boomers.
If anyone's on the pop culture reference at the moment, okay, boomer. So watching these people that were quite my senior try and work out what, things like ILY, so I love you stand for.
Yeah, right.
We
Yep.
might see common ones like, WTF and things like that. And the myriad of text speak or tech speak at the moment, and they just had no idea, which in all fairness, they actually need to know because as we communicate with consumers, people will be using these in their text to us, in their emails and things like that. So
It's just a whole new version of communication, isn't it?
Absolutely.
No longer do we write letters to one another or poems. Carinda, what does your landscape look like? Is Facebook and Instagram, is these your mediums now rather than newspapers?
Yeah, look, I tend to still stick with, the LinkedIns of the world. And use sources like that when I am actually digesting news. I still do use some of the, Financial Review or Australian Times, things like that to try and get some information, but I do tend to steer away from the more regional newspapers with the heavy advertorials, I guess, going on at the moment. Again, people paying to get their news out there, and then there is that bias behind there.
Yeah, and so where if you're trying to share a message for a business or a brand, what platforms, what mediums are you using to put really great content?
I would use the mediums where my audience are, and that changes for every single business and brand. So, your audience may be on Facebook, your audience may be on LinkedIn, your audience may be on Instagram, maybe on Snapchat, might be on Google Ads. It still might be in the old print press,
Yeah, right.
might be in magazines. So it really depends on where your audience is, which is probably one of the biggest parts of communication is understanding your audience and where they hang out, what they like to read, how they speak, what their tone is, what they're interested in, what their fears are, and then going from there.
That's very cool. So you're cross-generationally communicating. You can speak with the 10-year-olds and the 50-year-olds. That's pretty cool. That's a cool talent to have.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Carinda, what does it look like for you in the next few years? Do you know? Is you're off to Catherine? What does Carinda's life look like in 2-3 years' time? A few dogs.
Yeah, look, I definitely think a few dogs, a lot more, some runs under my belt or some ultra marathons exploring. So I'll be throwing myself into that for the next couple of years whilst I have the privilege of being so close to the Northern Territory national parks.
Yep.
I think that would be fantastic. Just the 4-legged kids I think I'd stick with at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially after the 6-year-old poem that's a little bit terrifying.
So. Yeah, Indy can come stay with you and Catherine whenever you like.
You haven't quite solved it for me, Josh. Sorry.
They can teach you all sorts of things.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Carinda,
Lucky therapy's cheap
it's been
these
such
days.
a pleasure catching up with you. We're so excited for your move to Catherine.
Thank you.
You do wonderful work. I think anybody should talk to you about being able to communicate whatever their message is with any audience. I think that you're an absolute star in that space. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carinda. Bye. A little bit close.